Hey there, guys. So we're going to go over some common issues that we're having here just on the basic AI setup. You guys heard me say a million times about how important it is to make sure you have your system set up, because you do it right the first time, then it causes so much less stress as you get on. And I can't tell you the number of people that I hear from, they're just like, well, this is crap, or this is this or that. And they kind of want to give up on the thing. And it's like, well, it's just you got to get set up correctly, right? I guess it's just like a life. Like, get your life set up, and then everything else should flow. Now, it's funny for me to say that because my life's a mess, but at least my computer's set up right, and I got this AI stuff going, so I can guide you in that. Now, we're going to look at some basic stuff with Anaconda. We're going to look at the basic stuff with Python, there's one other that we was going to look at that I'll remember, but just your basic main problems that I hear from people. And this ain't going to be a very long video. We're just going to talk about them real quick, and I'm going to just make sure that you guys got it set up right. So let's jump into that. But before we do, please do like and share. And at New Year's Eve, when the apple's falling down, 10, 9, 8, it gets down to 2, 1 at one go. Get going fast! Woo! Right? That kind of stuff. And I'll certainly appreciate that. All right. Well, in the meantime, let's get to the getting. Yo. All right. Well, let's get going. Now, before we get going at all, I just want to, again, point out that if you go over here to your browser and you head over to the Patreon site, there is this file here. There's this post called Cognitive Build List of All Scripts and Disclaimers. In this, you can get a free system checker, okay? If you click that, that'll tell you what you have installed, what you don't have installed. And if you send that to us, it helps us to know where you're at, so we can help you troubleshoot your stuff a bit more. Also, check it out. A full system setup script for NVIDIA can be downloaded here. If you run this, okay, it will download everything that you need for your setup. I've gone ahead and put everything in there that you need, assuming that you have an NVIDIA. Okay, if you don't have an NVIDIA, you can run it and just skip the NVIDIA stuff. But this will get your CUDA, this will get your Python, this will get your Git, this will get your FFmpeg, your codecs, everything that you need to get going. So my first suggestion to you is just get your system set up right. This is the easy way to do it, okay? It's painful. It's painful to reset your machine. Okay, to like say, I'm going to start with a fresh install, but I'm going to tell you, sometimes it's the best thing to do. Sometimes you just got to count your losses, back up your stuff, and just say, we're going to do this over, okay? Because we've talked about before, there's a concept called system pollution, where you just get so much stuff intertwining, you've downloaded so much stuff that your system is just too tweaked out to fix. Okay, it's like a necklace that's just gotten so tangled that you're never gonna get it untangled until you just clean your system. So I want to encourage you that it's not that painful. It's kind of painful, but not that painful, as long as you back your stuff up. Okay, again, with the install script I have, once you get in, just click it. It's going to do everything for you. So I could go from I can reset my machine in 30 minutes. Okay. Now, there's others, I got to reinstall games and stuff like that, and that's a pain, but that's where your backup comes in. So I just do want to say, at some point, if you're just having problems, just start over, okay? But let's talk about some basic errors now. So one of the big errors that we get is with Conda, okay? So people go in and they're just like, I can't figure out why Conda says it's not initialized or it's not found. That's the biggest problem. They say, I've installed Miniconda and it's just not working. Okay. Now, let's talk a couple things. First of all, there's a difference between what's called Anaconda and Miniconda. Okay, so obviously Miniconda is the small version of Anaconda. Anaconda you do not need. If you install Anaconda, you're installing way too much on your machine. It's like saying you just need a steak knife, but you've grabbed a butcher knife instead, and you're trying to eat your steak with this giant butcher knife, and all you really need is a steak knife. Okay, Anaconda is for developers that work in the industry. So like if you've got a job and you're making, 100 grand a year working for some big company, and they've got you working in multiple virtual environments because they're working on big money projects, then you're going to be using Anaconda because it's going to keep track of stuff. We don't need that. What we need is just a small version of it. Down, oh, look at this little Miniconda right there. Okay, that's what we need. All right, because what this is just going to allow us to do is to create single environments for the projects we're doing on our local machines. Again, Anaconda is like a big window. Let's see if we can actually show you here, but it's a big window that those are actual anacondas that you see. You're getting something like this. You're getting a giant thing that you're gonna handle all these other installs. You don't need it. It's going to confuse you. It's just going to junk up your system. Not junk your system so much. We're going to junk up your headspace for sure. What you just need is little Miniconda. All right. So first of all, make sure you get the right one. So when you go over here to download, where we're at here, at the top it says Anaconda. Don't go for that one. Go for your Miniconda. Okay, now we've talked before about when installing this stuff, it's very important that you do the settings correctly. Okay, so when you are running these, you have to make certain that you do not set Python 3.12 as your default Python. That's going to lead into some other problems that we have coming on. I'm going to actually show you something here real quick. Okay, let's pop over to here real quick, and I'm going to show you this. Okay, so here's the setup screen. Okay, when you come in here, you need to set it to your path. This is the number one reason why your conda is not working, is you need to set this to the path variable. That means that when you type conda into your command terminal, it's going to know what it is. Okay, you forget this. Now, one of the reasons that you don't get this is because over here, you're putting it on all users. Okay, so the way that the variables are stored is a little bit different. I'll show you here in a second. But when you're doing it like this, you're not really, like, supposedly you should be giving yourself access to it, but it's not. If you'll notice, we'll go over here, it's not giving us the same options. Notice that add to the pathing is not there. Okay, and so what I do is I go ahead and look, now I got to restart this thing. Hold on just a second. There we go. Is what I do is I choose the just me. All right, then when I go here, you're going to notice it has add Miniconda 3 to my path. You check that. Okay, it's got to be. If you get this done like this, it'll work. Okay, this can cause you problems later on though when you're running stuff that requires conda. You have to run as an administrator to give it permission, but at least it's going to get it working. Okay, this is how I usually do my setup. Then this one here, register Miniconda is my default Python. Uncheck it. That needs to not be checked. All right. If you check this, this will overwrite the Python. So I get a lot of people coming to me and they're saying, well, I have Python 3.10.11 installed, but it's saying that I'm using Python 3.12. This is the reason why, because when you installed Miniconda, you didn't uncheck this box. So watch this. Click. Oh, okay. I can breathe so much better now. I know that it's not going to be there. Now, it is funny. Notice it's red. It says not recommended for both the things that we need to do. Whatever. So those are the things we need to do, though. All right. Then when you go to your system to do your thing, she's going to work a lot better. Okay. If you're doing this and you still have a problem with it, let me show you over here what we can do. Let's see if I can get this over to here. Is that going to allow us to show this? Just a second. There we go. Okay, so this is called your environmental variables. Okay, you can get here by going to your start window and then doing typing in environmental, and then it'll pop up and you scroll into here. When you're setting stuff up for yourself, see it says use variables for the name, right? That's like a shortcut for the name of my computer, all right? These, when we click that button that said just for me, this is where it's putting those variables. See the system variables? They're down here. Now, if you remember, these environmental variables, what they represent is like a dictionary. So if I'm talking to the computer and I say, and I type in the word conda, it doesn't know what conda is. So it goes to a dictionary, says, or says, I don't know what that is. Do I know? So it goes, picks up this book and it looks up and it goes, oh, I do know what conda is. And this is where it is. So the environmental variables over here are that book for the computer. All right. It looks at it and it says, this is what I need to do. Now, typically it's going to be in your path. And so if you go into here, you're going to see these and it'll show you where this stuff is installed. At the top, you should have where you've installed your Miniconda. Okay. If you don't see it there, you need to click on the browse button. You'll see a browse button. You need to go find where it's installed and then you need to just add it. Okay. And then look for, you'll see one here. It says, library. Oh, you're not seeing that, are you? It says library bin. Hold on just a second. There we go. All right. So it should be at the top here. All right. And then you should see another one, that bin. These should all be added. All right. If they're not, then you need to go manually add them. But to be honest, why manually add them? If they're not there, uninstall whatever you've got in there and then reinstall it back on there. Okay. We're also going to, I'm just going to shortcut here our time. If you see Python 3.12 in here, you need to put it down the line because it means that it's overriding your other Python. Okay. So that's also what happens when we click that button that you shouldn't have been pressing. It puts a Python 3.12 command in there. And then when you type the word Python, it goes to its dictionary, goes, do I know Python? Oh, well, yeah, it's just 3.12. Then you go, but I have 3.10 installed. And it goes, yeah, but the book says 3.12. So what you do is you just either get rid of it or you just move it down the line. Okay, move it lower. So because how the system works is, let's say there's 2 Python things in here. It's going to just use the first one it finds. Okay, it's not going to worry about the second one. It goes, hey, I don't know, man. That's above. It's like a Teamster, you know. It's like a union member. It's going to be all like, listen, I just told to go get the first one I see. I don't care about the second stuff. My job is to grab the first one and go, and it's just going to do that, okay, which is great. But you just have to know how to work with it. So just if it is there, you move it down. Okay, so that moves us into our second problem that we typically can get, and that is with Python issues. Okay, so again, a lot of times people are having problems with getting their Python working, and one of the reasons is because you just go there and you install whatever. You say, well, I need Python. Okay, and so then you just go type in Python download and it gives you the latest Python, which is 3.12. Okay, Python 3.12 does not work with the vast majority of the AI stuff. Now, I can't explain to you really why, because I don't really understand why, except for that I just know that they've changed things in a way that is not compatible with the technology we're using. Maybe in a year or in 3 months or whatever, we'll start to get there. Okay, but I'm telling you, 3.12 does not work for the stuff. And when you start getting Python's errors, go to your add or remove window and see if it's there. Okay, so you can do something like this. Click on your start window, type add or remove programs. You just click that bad boy. It's going to pop this, and you're going to get your list. Scroll down. Listen, if it's not in alphabetical order, click here and name everything from A to Z. Okay, and then scroll down and see if you've got Python. What version you have in there. Okay, if it says 3.12, you got the wrong version. Okay, you shouldn't have been doing that. Okay, so you want 3.10.11 is probably the best. You can use 3.11. I've suggested in the past as well, but that's your problem. Okay, so you need to get. And how did you get 3.12 on there? Well, probably because you were installing Miniconda and you said to use it as your default. So right there, we've knocked out 2 major problems that people have. Your Conda issues, okay? Just uninstall it, reinstall it with the correct things, okay? If it's not there, go to your environmental variables, make sure that it's in there, okay? Your Python, I'm getting Python errors, okay? Why am I getting Python errors? Well, because probably you got the wrong Python installed, Okay, so you need to make sure that the correct Python is installed, and that if there is 3.12 on your system, it's moved further down the environmental variables than what you need. In fact, just get rid of it. You don't need it. Okay. Another common error people get is their CUDA is not installed with torch errors. All right. Now, this is because of one of two different things. So one might be that you just don't have NVIDIA installed, or you've got NVIDIA card, but you don't have the CUDA thing. So you need to go to the CUDA 11.8 download. I don't recommend going with CUDA 12, okay, because still a lot of the software that we're using relies on 11.8. You're just going to have a better experience. There is some stuff that needs 12, but you can install it in your Windows subsystem for Linux. The vast majority of stuff you're going to use 11.8 will be better, but you need to do a search and you need to download it. Okay. Now, here's another problem that people get into. They go, well, I downloaded the CUDA stuff and it says I'm getting the CUDA torch issues. Torch ain't working with CUDA. And then I'll look at their system and I say, oh, well, you're running an AMD. Okay. And the CUDA stuff is for NVIDIA cards. So if you're running AMD, I mean, hey, Lord bless you, and my heart to you, and let's see what we can do with you. But the vast majority of AI stuff is written for NVIDIA cards, okay? Which, by the way, if you're upgrading your machines to work with AI, get NVIDIA. It's just like there's no reason that if you're going to be upgrading your machine to go with an AMD card, okay? 90%, probably more, of AI stuff is going to be on NVIDIA stuff. That's why their stock goes through the roof, because they've basically got a monopoly on AI stuff, because that's what they built into. The softwares are built around NVIDIA. Okay, so if you're upgrading, you go NVIDIA. If you got NVIDIA, make sure you have the CUDA drivers installed. Okay, the drivers are what communicate between the graphics card and the computer. It's like an interpreter in there, and it says, okay, this is speaking German, this one's speaking English, and this is translating between them. Okay, that's what your drivers do. They speak. Everything on your computer has to have a driver, whether it's your mouse or whether it's your microphone. It all has a translator that says, I speak mouse and I speak Windows. Okay, and I'm going to translate these things, make these things work. Okay, CUDA is your driver. Now, when you get into actually installing this stuff, there's something called the CUDA toolkit that we install as well, and we install it into our virtual environment. And that is not the same thing as the drivers, okay? So the difference being that CUDA is like, I like to just think of it like CUDA is the factory. That's where the stuff is happening, okay? All of the big heavy work. But let's say I have a big factory, but it's in the middle of a forest and there's no roads. Well, then there's no way to get to the factory and there's no way to get out of the factory. So you have to have the CUDA toolkit, which is like building a road to there. So I could be producing everything I can, but if I don't got semi trucks coming in that I can load up and ship it out, then it doesn't matter my factory. So CUDA toolkit is kind of like the trucks that are coming, and they are able to package stuff and get it pipelined to where you need to go. So there's two different things. You have to have your Conda drivers installed. You only need to install those once. With the software that we're installing, you got to install your CUDA toolkit every time that we're doing these things. Or at least when you're using the installers that you get from the Get Going Fast page, they're all going to rely on installing CUDA toolkit. Then when we install our Torch, okay, Torch is going to be relying on the CUDA toolkit. Again, think of it like being a Teamster or something like that. I like Teamsters. I was a Teamster, back in the day. So, well, back in the day being a few years ago, I loved it. But anyway, so it's like that. So Torch comes in, there's a worker and say, hey, listen, we need to get over to the CUDA factory. Okay, and where's the trucks that we're going to be driving? It's like you're a driver, right? Torch is the driver, and they say, well, there ain't no truck here. And you say, well, I'm here, but I've got nothing to drive. And that's what that error means. When you're getting that Torch compiled without CUDA, it's like saying you've hired a driver, but you don't have a truck for it to drive to get to the factory. Okay, so we install CUDA drivers. We have the factory. Okay. Then we install the CUDA toolkit. So we've got a road and we've got trucks to get there. Okay. And then when we install Torch, it's saying we've got the driver, you know, not the computer drivers, but we got like the person that is actually moving the machine, you know, the driver himself. Okay. And he's getting on there, or she, whatever you want, okay, and going over to the factory. If you don't have the trucks, you're going to get an error. Okay. They say, oh, we can't do our job. All right. So that's what those errors mean. Again, run the system check, and it'll tell you if you have CUDA installed. It'll tell you if you have Git installed. It'll tell you if you have Miniconda installed. It'll tell you if you've got Python installed. It'll even tell you what kind of video card you have. So if you don't even know, run it, and maybe you'll see that, oh, hell, I don't even have an NVIDIA card. Okay, but these three things are going to solve a lot of problem in your life. Okay, again, there's other stuff. You know, you got to have your FFmpeg installed. You got to have your Git installed. If any one of these elements are missing, you're not going to be able to do the tutorials that we're doing or use the quick installers that I prepared for you. Okay, but once you do, it's like that sweet spot, right? It's like that point in a relationship. You know, you with a gal, and maybe you've had some rough points, and then you just hit a stride. Right? And you're like, life is good. Okay. And it's the same way with this. Once you get the stuff set up right, everything starts to flow. It doesn't mean that there's no troubles, but it does mean that you're not just banging your head around opening doors that you don't know what they do or whatnot. Okay. So we're going to end it there. Dogs are freaking out over here, freak out all day long on me here. So, I'm going to go deal with them. In the meanwhile, tonight's New Year's Eve. I'm going to try to get out one more video before we're done. I want you guys to be safe. Have a good time, as always. Hit us up on the Discord. You're welcome to welcome in the new year. It's going to, I think I got one of those little things, you know, you just pull the little string, goes, boom. I think that'll be about the much excitement as I'm having for New Year's tonight. But you're welcome to come have that much excitement with us as well. In the meanwhile, you stay good. If you have questions, hit me up on the Discord. Hit me up on the Reddit. Find me on the YouTubes. Wherever I'm around, okay? So you guys stay good. And as usual, we will catch you on the other side. Yo!